I kind of think that it used to be more that fans wanted, and I don't know if they wanted it, but what creators did a lot more or not even to talk about what creators did. Instead, I mean, because I don't want to generalize about that, but I mean, I think what fans seem to want now is for creators to come on a character and do stories that are personal and reflective of the work they do in their independent work, in a way where it's true to core, but they want you to bring the kind of artists that inspire you that might be conventional or unconventional depending on what you do outside of, superhero work. But what they want is for you to take the kind of stuff that you talk about in your own work, take the kind of stuff that you do, the storytelling that you like to do, and be daring on a character and transform a character to be yours, your team's, like what Mark is able to do, what Mark Waid is able to do with Daredevil, with Chris, or what they're doing with Batgirl, or what Matt and David have done with Hawkeye. And you see those things, and I feel like that's different than it used to be. They want you to do your take, as long as that take is true to the center of the character. They want you to take risks and be daring, and that for me, I was always worried coming in and trying that. I always thought, well, if I go on here and I do a story that's personal and big, like 11 issues, that will probably be the only one I ever get to do, but at least I did it. And the fact that people have been so supportive of us, Greg and I, believe me, before every arc, I have called Greg Capullo and said, I think this might be the one they all turn on us and it'll be it. They'll hate it. But he's like, do you love it? I'm like, I love it, Greg. I would happily go out on it. And he'll be like, then let's do it and go out on it. And he's been great about that. Because the two times I've had really a hard time. I always have a hard time. Like right now, where I finished Endgame, I'm really happy with the ending. I think I'm really proud of it. I'm not particularly worried about that, because I think the thing that I'm really excited about is for people to see. There's some great, for me, like twists I'm really proud of, but there's also like a fight between the Joker and Batman that, for me, is sort of like the thing that you want, where you're like, oh, I've always wanted to see them really fight it out, but they really fight it out in a way where you're like, I think you're going to be like, I didn't know it'd be like that, and I'm very excited about. But the story, what I'm about to do, I call Greg up, and this really might be a jump to shark one. It might be, but I feel like it's so out there and wacky and personal that I feel like everyone will see it and they'll be like, I hope everyone sees it and is like, that's going to be really fun, and I can't wait to see where they go with that. But if they're not, I feel like we've earned the right, hopefully, to try something really weird and wild. And then if my hope is that people are as enthusiastic about it as we are, but if not, it's just one story, and it will go back to, we'll get back to Batman and to status quo Batman and all that kind of stuff. So,
What I wanted to say is, with Batman, from creating Harper Row, which everybody has taken to Harper so well, and to see her now finally blossom as Bluebird. And we talked before the show, we were so glad she did not put an R on her chest.
Yeah, me too.
We were so glad that she wasn't Robin, that she has her own identity. To Death of the Family, where Chief and Panda and I have always said that's the Joker we wanted to see, was this dark, demonic Joker that basically set it out. There is no Joker without Batman. There's no Batman without Joker. He said it. And then you were on Comic Book Men, and what I really want to ask, you were on Comic Book Men, which I was as well at one point, and Kevin asked you, what villain have you not done that you would like to do? And if I remember, your answer was Crazy Quilt. Well, you just had Crazy Quilt in Endgame, so my question is now, is there a villain that you would love to take on? Maybe Egghead or King Tut?
Yeah, the other one I get a lot. Crazy Quilt was like a challenge where I feel like people always shout that villain out when I'm like, yeah, who do you want to see in Batman? Because he's so unusable. And the other one they say is Condiment King, which I feel is thoroughly unusable. I don't know there's any way to make that character. I even remember the animated. I'm a huge animated fan. The animated series to me is like, it goes Frank Miller's work, animated series, and many other things beneath that. But those animated to me is sort of like, Bible. But I remember when they did an episode where they tried to make the Condiment King make sense. He was part of these brainwashed comedians. It was a Joker episode, I think, and it still just wasn't. It just wasn't good. And you're like, there's no. If Paul Dini can't do it, then I'm gonna leave it alone. I think that the characters, the couple of villains. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not using any classic villains for a while. My goal right now is to try and create a bunch of new stuff in June, and just take some risks and then yeah, try some really out there stuff, and then sort of come back to those villains eventually. But the villains that I think, the ones I missed out on using that I would have liked to use are Mad Hatter. I had an idea for Mad Hatter I would have liked to do, and make him really scary. And Two-Face is another one that I had an idea, but he was very involved in Batman and Robin for a while, and so I didn't want to step on anything Pete was doing. And then the third, I would say the third one for me was Catwoman. I really wanted to write Catwoman, and then I actually thought about, there was a moment where I almost, when we decided on that status quo where she was going to become the crime boss for a bit, and we were talking about it in Eternal, I came like this close to actually trying to write it. I was like, maybe I'll take it on in addition to Batman and do it, because I had an idea for it that I was like, oh, I would love to do this story, but I didn't have the bandwidth, and I just couldn't. And then Genevieve, so they opened it to pitches, and then Genevieve pitched, and hers was great. She's doing a terrific job, so I'm proud of her.
Yeah, I read Catwoman fantastic. Give her kudos from us, because that is awesome story arc, and Mad Hatter's my favorite villain of Batman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love the Mad Hatter. What they did with him in Batman: The Dark Knight before it was before it got canceled, where Batman literally beats the living snot out of him because he kills so many people, was brilliant. It was finally bringing the Hatter, I think, to the realm of a villain instead of just some kooky crazy guy.
Yeah, Greg was great with that. My thinking is, he's really scary. Because the mind control stuff, can be played for real horror, And I never liked the thing about the pedophilia stuff with him, that sometimes that angle of the creepiness of like the little girl stuff I don't like, because I feel like it just gets murky and weird. But I feel like the mind control and the paranoia around that was where I wanted to go with him, and I'd like to use him. Look, here's the thing. Some days I think, maybe we'll stay past 50. I don't know. It really, this time is like, I just feel like, I never thought we would be here. I really did not. I never thought that I would get to write Batman this long and this freely, and just get to do these stories that are, that are ours. DC there have been moments where they have tried to stand in the way of certain things in the story that would have been really problematic, and Greg and I have fought them, and they've backed away. So we've been able to do pretty much everything that we wanted. There wasn't anything big that was killed by them. And it's funny because I feel like externally we have pretty good reputations, me and Greg, I hope, at least, as pretty nice guys, and internally I think we're okay, but it's funny because we have had moments, where we've really had to fight for things, and again, not because they're evil people that want to mess with you, but just because they have priorities sometimes where they're like, we need to do an event here, or we need to do this, and you have to really push back, but I don't know.
Speaking just for myself, I'm sure a lot of other people feel this way, but I think that you and Capullo are two of the most personable people on social media that I've ever interacted with. I talked to Craig Capullo, everyone just send him a joke once in a while, and he always replies back. You guys, is that connection, I think that's what a lot of people like about your Batman. I think you're genuine with people, and I think they see that in the writing. I think they see that in the art. And you guys have always been cool to me. So I would say, I would think the majority of fans would think that way too.
Well, we really, the fun thing too is, I hope it comes through how much we like each other in that way, that we didn't like each other at first, and I know everyone knows that now. We really didn't get along when we first got on the book. The first few weeks, we just did not like each other. And because he was used to working from an outline, and I'm like a neurotic full script person, and so we clashed. Where he was like, he read the script and he was like, "There's no way I can work with this much story," and I was just like, "I don't know what to tell you because that's the way I write." And he was like, "Well, the story's going to get in the way of the art," and I was like, "Your art's going to get in the way of the story," and then it just sort of blew up. But then I actually looked at a lot of the stuff he was designing, and it was so good. And I remember being like, all right, let's just get on the phone and start talking story. And then once we did that, we got along great. And now he's become a real good friend. But the moment that really, there were a couple moments where that really happened. The first was when we got to Batman #5 and we were really starting to have fun and loosen up. And he wanted to turn the book. That was his idea based on I wrote the pages being like, Greg, anything you think that could be really wacky and out there that would suggest this sense of disorientation. Do you want to do shattered things? You want to do the book goes upside down? Whatever you want, just something. And then he thought of this idea of it slowly turning, and we told it to DC, and they were just like, no, there's no way. They were like, it's everyone will think it's a misprint. And we were like, Greg wrote this really great. I hope they publish it one day if they do an absolute edition. This like passionate email that was like, sometimes you must be foolish, and it was like quoting all these people like Steve Jobs and everything. It was great. And I was just like writing these emails that were like ditto, you know, what he said, yeah, and sticking up there. And it was just it was a pretty big fight with them. And eventually they were like, okay, fine, you know, you want to do it. And so we're like, yeah, see. And then we got the PDF of it, and the PDF reads vertically, you know, you scroll through it. So I was like, see, God, we were such fucking pussies, man. Look at that. That doesn't look so crazy. You know, whatever. And then the book came, and I read it, and I was like, oh my God, there's a misprint in this book. It goes, you have to turn it. And then I was like, oh God. I was like, Jesus, no one is going to get that this is deliberate. They were totally right. And so I tweeted.
For this?
Yeah, and so I tweeted out. I remember tweeting. I was just like, hey, everybody, in Batman 5, there's something happening, but it's deliberate. And then Greg literally called me up like a minute later. He was like, I saw that tweet. What are you doing, man? He was like, if they don't get it, they don't get it, man. You know, don't be such a pussy, you know, erase that tweet. I was like, okay, sure. So I did. And then the funniest thing is, like, an hour later, he got his comps, and I saw him tweet. He was like, there's a goddamn misprint in Batman 5. And I was like, dude, it's not a misprint. That's what we asked for. And then we saw, and we were like, God, I can't believe they let us do this crazy thing. But we had such a laugh. We had such a laugh over that. And then we went to a con together, and my wife and his wife got along, and we went to Spain together, and we just hit it off. And then the second time, the thing that really cemented our friendship, like really cemented it, because we were friends after that and we talked, but we didn't hang out outside of work quite as much still. We still talked work, you know. It was like I always loved to see him and we were friends, but we didn't like call up and talk about family stuff, you know. And then what happened was Zero Year was announced. I got a little bit of like a 1-2 punch right before that. And again, tell me if I'm just like not answering any questions. And
well, we run loose here, man. Just just talk how you want.
I'm running out of time because I could just talk to you for a long. I could just talk for. I have nothing to do tonight, so
if I have to make this into a 2-part episode, hey, we'll do it.
Okay, all right, cool.
We just bullshit here, man. That's what we do.
Good, well, because I finished Wytches today and I finished Endgame, so I'm very, very I'm totally the only. I should be drinking, talking to you, but I
go. You can do that too if you like.
No, I ate. I'm honestly, I'm trying to get in shape. I'm taking this hiking trip with my kid, and so I vowed that I would not. We just went to Disney World, and I'm like still reeling from that. So anyway.
I love that. My in-laws live literally 30 minutes from the main gate.
Oh, really?
So I go down there, free room and board.
Yeah, it's a fun trip. It's funny, I actually just wrote about it, and there's an essay in the new Wytches that's coming out in 5 where I talk about working there and stuff after college and everything. So it's funny to go back and see, and it's funny to go back now with my kids I worked there for a year right after college, and it's just a strange kind of, because it all kicks in again where you're like, oh, can I take that picture for you? You know, whatever, all the things they teach you to do when you see a guest, you know, and you're like, no, I'm here with my family, you know. But the second thing with Greg was that right after the Death of the Family came out, and I knew we were doing Endgame, And my feeling was